We just watched a vintage Kawhi Leonard game. 39 points on 19 shots, 5 assists, just 1 turnover, great defense, and so many clutch plays down the stretch of a 3-point road win in Game 2 for the Clippers against the Nuggets. This looked like 2019 Kawhi. This looked like prime Spurs Kawhi that was competing for MVPs against some of the best players that we've seen in the last decade. This is an unbelievable development for the Clippers to get this version of Kawhi at this point of the season. And it's especially surprising because he wasn't actually all that good in the first game, especially late in the game. He had some weird turnovers. He had the turnover on the side where Jamal Murray just took the ball from him when he was on the wing and turned the ball over. He looked tired. He looked like a guy that hadn't been in a playoff game in really a couple years, a real playoff game in a couple years. And frankly, he looked like a guy that hadn't played a ton in the regular season, that was returning from a bunch of injuries. And then in Game 2, it was the exact opposite. He had it going early. He was hitting all of his mid-range jumpers. And the overall efficiency of this honestly makes it one of the best playoff games that we're going to see in the entirety of the postseason this year. 39 points on just 19 shots, not turning the ball over, given how much he had the ball, how much he was creating for the guys, how well he was playing on defense, all of these big buckets down the stretch. This is just an unbelievable development for the Clippers. And his style, this version of Kawhi that we've seen in the past, works so well with this Clippers team because they want to play a little bit slower. They want to play kind of a possession by possession game. They want James Harden and Kawhi to create good shots for them every time down the floor. They don't want to turn the ball over, and they want to play active and engaged on defense, and this is their kind of game. 105, 102 in the playoffs, that's exactly where they want to be. And Kawhi's ability to just get a good look at the rim every single time because he's so strong, because he elevates so well in his jump shot, because he's so good in the mid-range, is perfect for this team and is a really nice complement to the top of the key playmaking pick and roll, spread pick and roll game of James Harden. And it's kind of unbelievable how well those two guys work together. And honestly, this version of Kawhi makes it look like none of the injuries ever happened. Multiple knee injuries that he's had through the years, multiple times in the playoffs where it looked like the Clippers were going to do something and then all of a sudden Kawhi got hurt. It looks like none of those things have happened, and frankly, nobody anticipated this possibility. Everybody just assumed that if Kawhi was going to end up playing for the Clippers at some point this season, he would be pretty good, but maybe not great, because how would you expect the guy to continue to come back from all these injuries and look like he in this game against the Nuggets? Now, obviously, the Clippers had some kind of idea, because the only reason we're here is because they decided to let Paul George walk in the offseason, a decision that I was very critical of. I didn't understand the concept of just letting him walk, not getting anything in return via a trade, and just counting on aging James Harden and aging Kawhi Leonard to lead your team. And you never know, that still might not be a great recipe, and they might not even get out of the first round. You never know. The Nuggets are still very good, but it's clear that the proof of concept is here for the Clippers of what their team could look like without the Paul George contract on the roster, not giving him the big deal, having guys like Norm Powell, Derek Jones fill that void, and then just count on Kawhi to look like one of the 5-6 best players in the entire league once again in the postseason. I didn't think that was all that likely at all, but the likelihood of it is not existent right now. It doesn't matter because it's happening. We're watching it in real time. Now, as always with Kawhi, you're concerned about how he's going to hold up throughout the rest of the series and then potentially throughout the rest of their postseason run, especially if they get past the first round and we get into the second and the third round, maybe even the finals, where you're playing games like every other day and you're traveling a bunch. That's going to be very, very difficult on Kawhi. And like I said, in the past, when he's had injury issues, sometimes it has happened exactly like this, where he looks good and then at the worst possible time in the postseason for the Clippers, he goes down with an injury. Obviously, I'm hoping that does not happen, but it's something that you do have to discuss when you're talking about Kawhi. But this is just a wrinkle that I really don't think most people around the league accounted for. The Clippers were a fine team before Kawhi came back towards the later half of the year, but they weren't necessarily a threat. They were probably going to be, a borderline play-in team and just be kind of solid. But since Kawhi's come back, they have the best record in the entire league. They're a terrifying two-way team, one of the best defenses in the league, and then you have this clutch shot maker in Kawhi alongside the spread pick and roll of Harden, and they look like a team that's a real threat. Like, I know the Nuggets aren't exactly top tier competition within the Western Conference, but they're still really good. They still have the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and the Clippers look like they are right on their level. And speaking of the Nuggets, Game 2 was just very strange for them in that Jokic was kind of bad. Like, he scored pretty well, he had a triple-double, but he looked completely exhausted, especially in the second half of this game. He ends up with 7 turnovers in the game. It's clear that the Clippers defense is bothering him. They're running a lot of guys at him. He's just having to work really hard for all of his points. And Zubac typically plays him really well as they continue to mention on the broadcast. They're putting Jokic in every single action they can, trying to wear him out. And the Nuggets can't afford to take him out, as evidenced by the fact that he played literally every minute of the second half in game 2. And this has been a problem for the Nuggets for years. They can't figure out a way to just tread water when Nikola Jokic isn't out there. They're so good when he's out there, and he's so impactful almost regardless of who you put around him, and they just can't figure out a backup 5 option. And that's especially glaring against a team in the Clippers that has so many options in terms of their lineups. They can play Zubac against him or against the second unit to force them to play like DeAndre Jordan, who played some minutes out there. If the Nuggets want to go small and try and play Aaron Gordon at the 5, they've got a bunch of different options between Ben Simmons and Nick Batum and Derek Jones that they can throw out there in possible small ball lineups. The Clippers are actually a pretty difficult matchup for Denver if they're not going to get vintage Nikola Jokic games, if they're not going to get really good Jamal Murray games, if they're not going to get really good outside shooting. The Clippers are really well built to deal with everything that Denver does. And right now, frankly, at least as of game 2, their star is playing better. Their guy in Kawhi outplayed Nikola Jokic, especially down the stretch when it came to clutch plays when they needed a bucket. And that's concerning if you're a Nuggets fan, because the other part of this that I just haven't really seen people mention is games 3 and 4 for the Clippers are going to be different than any playoff games they've ever had. They are going to have a legit home court advantage. Like, there are times for the Clippers where they play in LA, the former Staples Center, Crypto Center, whatever you want to call it, and the other team would have home court advantage essentially because there's just not a lot of Clippers fans out there and they don't want to go to basically the other team's arena because it's basically the Lakers arena that they're just kind of renting. But now that they have the Intuit Dome, they have this new home court advantage. That is going to be an incredibly difficult environment for Denver to go into, and they're going to have to win a game there now. They don't have home court advantage anymore. They're going to have to win a game on the road, and in the past, when you're playing the Clippers, that hasn't been all that big of a deal. It's kind of a big deal now. Like, it is a real home court advantage. They've been really good at home this year, and I'm very intrigued to see how that translates on the floor for the Clippers. Moving forward in the series, there's obviously plenty of things to be concerned about on both sides. The Clippers are always going to be concerned about, are we doing too much with Kawhi? Is he going to break down? Is he going to get hurt? Harden's had some uneven moments at certain points as well, but their defense is so good that they're probably going to be fine. Like, if they get a bad Kawhi game or a bad Harden game, their defense can still elevate them and keep them in the game. Denver can't really say that. One of the reasons they were in trouble in the beginning of game 1 is because their defense was just so bad. They were giving up so many easy buckets, and it was better in game 2, but also that's kind of the style that the Clippers want to play. Like, the score being, 105-102 is not necessarily indicative of the Nuggets playing great defense, but more so indicative of the Clippers controlling the pace and playing the game at the pace that they want to play. And right now, to me, this series is advantage Clippers. Kawhi playing the way that he's playing after a rough game 1, bouncing back in game 2, having home court advantage, having a real home court advantage with the Intuit Dome or whatever it's called. And frankly, with how well they seem to have a grasp of how to deal with Nikola Jokic in terms of just wearing him out, making him completely exhausted, and then if he wants to try and create everything, that's fine. He's going to do it when he's exhausted. He's going to do it when he plays the entire second half. They're going to continue to move around the rotations, and we're going to have to see what the Nuggets' adjustments are to that. Now, having said all those things, the Nuggets could very easily be up 2-0 in the series if they just finished the game out last night, because they had a great comeback and ended up winning game 1 in overtime, and there were points, especially in game 1, that the Clippers looked completely lost, even with Kawhi and James Harden having okay games. But you could also say the complete opposite. You could say that the Nuggets are in huge trouble because they should be down 0-2 in the series. They got outplayed in game 1 and just snuck it out, and then in game 2 they end up losing because Kawhi is just awesome down the stretch. That would be the disaster scenario here for the Nuggets, for a team that has a new head coach that's coached the team for like 5 or 6 games. It's his first ever playoff series. Guys on the perimeter around Jokic are losing their confidence because they're not hitting shots. There is a nightmare scenario here for the Nuggets where they're going to LA down 0-2 in the series. It's going to be an unbelievable series. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we end up going to game 7, but the biggest takeaway by far is if Kawhi is healthy and he keeps having games like he did in game 2, the Clippers are a real scary, legit threat in the West.